All right, welcome to Peck Report yet again. Hope you are doing well. So yesterday we kind of talked about some heavy subjects. Today we're probably going to be a little bit lighter because you're all stuck at home. We're stuck at home, and hey, quarantining isn't so bad when you get to do it with one of your best friends. It kind of worked out well. Steve is here. I'll introduce him in a minute, but he's here for a film project that I'm working on with Defender Films, and it just so happened that the day that you flew here, Trump like closed the Canadian border and said there's no flying in or out, but he's able to go back. So I guess that worked out okay. So we're kind of quarantining here for a little bit, but a lot of you guys are stuck at home quarantining as well, and so we wanted to do another video for you guys, so you got something to watch, something to do, and we hope that you're keeping entertaining, using this time to spend with your family because you don't have a choice, so you may as well, right? Stephen Bancars, my co-author for Second Coming of the New Age. How are you doing?
Good. It's good to be here. I was kind of hoping that I would get quarantined here.
Yeah.
But they're still sending flights out back to Canada if you're a Canadian citizen.
If you got to be quarantined, anywhere in the world, you'd want it to be America rather than Canada,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah, and this is a pretty safe, city or town.
Mm-hmm.
Very small population.
Yeah.
Kinda in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
It's basically one big quarantine.
Yeah.
So
just by nature, just
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
it is like that. What is quarantining like in Canada? I can't imagine that. Is it like more oppressive, or like what do they do? Is it kind of the same as here?
I'm not
or-
really sure. When I get home, they're going to tell me that I should be spending at least 2 weeks self-quarantined. So my parents are preparing the basement with like a microwave and like a mini fridge, and I get the whole basement to myself, and my brother's moving upstairs, and so I don't know. Yeah, there's another case like about 25 minutes away from my hometown. A girl who was 20 years old just contracted it. So
Oh.
yeah, there's been 3 deaths in Ontario, in my province, from it.
Oh, geez.
But once again, they're people who are much older, who have
Mhm.
pre-existing medical conditions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things too that a lot of people have found comfort in, and we just did a Peck report. I think by the time of this airing, we did it last week, that there's now new reports saying even young people are getting it and dying from it, and maybe they all have pre-existing conditions and maybe not, but the article wasn't super specific about it. But it sounds like like for those who die from it, it's a really nasty disease and like a really nasty death. So, I mean, if the worst thing we have to do is quarantine for a little while to not catch the disease, I think that's a good trade-off. And of course, we want to keep everybody in prayer who's suffering from the disease or who have lost anybody due to coronavirus, the Chinese coronavirus. We want to pray for all of them people. But
and we want to make sure we hug a Chinese.
yeah, hug a Chinese like they do in Italy. Well, that brings up a good point too, because with the coronavirus thing, a lot of people are pointing to Italy and saying, their numbers are so much bigger. We're only 2 weeks behind them, and which is true. We, here in America, we're about 2 weeks behind Italy, but Italy, and I just found out about this. Italy has a lot of these weird social campaigning things that we don't have here. They're not practicing good hygiene. Like they had this social movement to prove that they're not racist because they're so worried about anybody thinking that they're racist. They'll literally risk their lives and other people's lives for it. That they had the Hug a Chinese campaign.
Right.
Hashtag Hug a Chinese. A Chinese. That's what they're calling them.
As if that is the antidote for racism.
I know. I'm so not racist. I'm willing to risk my life and your life. Come here, Chinese.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you call them? I mean, I guess you can't really
A Chinese
call them.
person.
Yeah, just a Chinese person, right? Hug a
Yeah.
Chinese person. Not as snappy of a hashtag, I guess.
Hug a Chinese. Because then you're reducing their identity to their
to the race.
nationality,
Yeah.
which is part of what they're trying to solve.
Their nationality, yeah, and that's actually a more accurate term because technically Chinese isn't a race, but yeah, so yeah, they're like reducing their whole identity to that one attribute, and
Yeah.
it's like who's the racist here?
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. So yeah, a lot of people are stuck at home. A lot of people are, and it's weird because I've been seeing like two extremes with all of this coronavirus stuff. There's the extreme that is like freaking out, buying all the toilet paper, just going nuts and thinking this is the end of the world. They're preparing for the apocalypse. But then there's the other extreme, and this one I think is kind of more horrifying. Actually, I'd rather somebody be over prepared than under prepared. But there's the other extreme of people just scoffing at the whole thing, saying, it's all made up. This isn't any big deal. This, it's fine. We're gonna live our lives and do whatever we want. I'm gonna go outside if I want to. And I understand the sentiment. Nobody likes the government, especially Americans. Like, no one likes the government telling us what to do.
Right.
But at the same time, what are they really asking of us? And I know that there are people in the government that are trying to use this catastrophe to try to take some of our rights away. But merely if merely the government just asking, please stay at home because we don't want to spread this disease and we want to get through this as quickly as possible, I don't see any harm in that. I think that's just good, solid advice, and I've advised my audience to do it. Worst case scenario, if I'm wrong, if the disease really is made up or there's no disease or it's not as bad as they say, well, you get a couple weeks that you get to spend at home with your family. And, a lot of businesses are closing down anyway, so that's not really going to change anything. What's really the harm? Now, if the other person is wrong, who says, no, go live your life, do what you want, go outside. If they're wrong, they could die from that. I mean, you could catch the disease, and depending your age and your physical health, you could die a pretty horrific death if that person is wrong. So I like to err on the side of caution. But what have you noticed with this whole thing, just people's attitudes and just how quickly this has progressed?
I don't know. I think that our bedrock of comfort, our security blanket, if you will, needs to be the content of Scripture, the Word of God, the promises of God, and that needs to ultimately dictate and govern my emotional response to things like this. Maybe not necessarily my logistical response, because I believe in full preparation. Yeah. I'm sanitizing my hands like crazy when I'm here.
Me too.
I'm fine with getting into good habits and being prepared and stuff like that. But my emotions should never match what's going on in the natural, because my emotions should be rooted in the promises of Scripture, which tell me that to be away from the body is to be present with the Lord, that God works all things together for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose, that I have an eternity in the presence of God to look forward to. Right. And all throughout Scripture, you see Jesus talking about the gospel of the kingdom, Paul always talking about the hope that is to be revealed. And, Romans 8:18, our present sufferings are nothing compared to the glory that is to be revealed. And there's an interesting near-death experience, not near-death experience, but the death of someone named St. Augustine. I'm sure we've heard of him. He's an early church father. My Christian psychotherapist actually told me this story. He was saying that St. Augustine had some very beautiful writings, and very prominent Christian, very influential Christian. He was on his deathbed and he was surrounded by pastors, and he took his last breath, and the people said that they felt the presence of the Lord in the room, and he came back and he said one last sentence before he finally passed on. And the sentence he said was, "I have just beheld the glory of the Lord, and all things that I have written are but straw in comparison." Wow. So the best thing you can produce in your Christian life on this side of heaven are but straw in compared to what we're going to experience in an eternal state with Christ. It's
unimaginable.
Right. So that needs to be our source of comfort, setting our minds on the things above and not on things beneath. Colossians 3, like being heavenly minded and not being so spiritual that you're just completely ignorant to what's going on. And, well, I'm indestructible now because God promises me this in Scripture.
Well, yeah, and I think part of being properly spiritual is recognizing there is physicality, there is a physical world. It's part of God's creation, and we do need to know about it and understand kind of how it works just to maneuver it, especially because, God gave us commands. He gave us things to do. We're supposed to be spreading the gospels, making disciples of all nations. Right. Well, you can't do that if you're so ignorant that you don't know how to navigate the world. Right. You want to stick around for a while, at least as long as possible, so you can spread the gospel to other people. The longer you're around, the more effective you can be for the kingdom, provided that you're you're operating under God's guidance and not your own. There's a lot of people that don't do that, and then their extended life tends to be a detriment to humanity. Nobody watching, but we can all think of like the Hitlers of the world and things. So it's not a blanket statement for all human beings. But those who are trying to walk in God's guidance and in what He tells us to do.
Right.
So
like actually like stewarding your life.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So like applying the wisdom of Proverbs to your life and understanding that you have a family, you have moral obligations, and working and providing for your family and living a life of integrity.
Yeah.
Being responsible. These things glorify God and honor God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily quote unquote spiritual, but it's righteous.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
And God wants us to, be responsible in the natural. He just does. But my hope and my peace and my emotions aren't supposed to be dictated by what's going on around me.
Right.
As the Apostle Paul's weren't. His emotions when he was in prison, for example, and he was in chains, they were always proportionate to the presence of the Lord and the promises of God.
Mm-hmm.
They were never proportionate to what was going on in his surroundings.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point too, and that's something that I've been talking about on Peck Report the past. I try not to like oversaturate every Peck Report with coronavirus stuff because just eventually people get sick of hearing it. But one of the things that I have been talking a lot about is part of being like a good steward of yourself and your family, and just is providing. I mean, Scripture says that you're worse than an infidel if you don't take care of your family. Basically, it's a Peck paraphrase, but that's
what it says.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the people that are kind of scoffing at this and saying you don't got to do anything, you don't got to change your life, it's fine. Man, I personally would not want to take that chance. I wouldn't want to be so prideful that I assume I know better than everybody else in the world, and then take that chance of not preparing. Because if you prepare, the worst thing that's going to happen is you don't have to go grocery shopping for a while. You're still going to eat the food.
There's proverbs about preparing for when the drought hits.
Exactly.
I can't remember the proverb, but you're storing up in advance for when the drought hits. You'll have something.
Yeah.
So that's just being responsible. And
we should always be doing that. Not only in response to some epidemic or pandemic or whatever's going on, but we should always be prepared for those things. Like Christina and I, we've always had. Maybe not as much as we should have. We certainly do now, but we've always had kind of a plan in place of okay, if because we live in an area that kind of floods. All right, what happens if our town, if the main road out of town floods and we can't get to the hospital? We need to get to the hospital, so we make sure that we have supplies here in case something goes wrong. Where we need medical assistance or something like that, we can do it here. Or food. What if the supply runs dry, people can't get into town because of a flood, or usually if it floods here it's only for a couple days, but you never know. And so we've always made sure we've had at least like a week or two of food available. I'll tell you what, after this though, we're definitely gonna up that. It's not just going to be a week or two. We're going to have more food than that stored up. Or I've mentioned it before. I have a rare bone disease. I take kratom, which is just a natural herb from I forget exactly what, Thailand or something like that. But it helps with pain relief, and it doesn't get you stoned out of your mind the way like Vicodin or something will, which is nice. Not the getting stoned. It's nice to not get stoned because that's talk about not being spiritual. But so a couple of years ago, the DEA wanted to ban kratom. So in preparedness, I bought it as much as I could, and it stays good for a long time, which I'm recommending people do now. If you're like me and you take kratom or CBD or something like that for pain, now would be a good time to stock up if you haven't already. Which if you want to, you can do that at dailyrenegade.com. But so yeah, I mean there is a good principle of just being prepared. It doesn't mean you got to be like a crazy doomsday prepper over it, but I would rather be like the crazy doomsday prepper than the guy who scoffs at everything and who's gonna end up starving because he doesn't have anything to eat.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like another thing too is remembering that God's on the throne. He's in control, and he's sovereign. And what that means is that there's literally nothing that comes to pass in our world that surprises God or catches him off guard, first of all. And second of all, that he doesn't that he doesn't permit. So everything that comes to pass in the natural world, including evils, must first pass through the siphon of God's permissive will, including satanic activity. And Satan can't do anything apart from the sovereign overseership of God.
Yeah.
Right? So everything is governed and in the hands of God, in the control of God. Why doesn't he intervene with any and all evils? He does sometimes, not every single one. And some people have speculated about whether or not this is judgment against America. I don't know if we can call that.
Right.
God does do that in the Old Testament and the New Testament, for that matter, against humanity. But the point is that God's in control of our lives, and nothing happens. Nothing escapes his sight.
Yeah.
Nothing happens without God saying, okay, I'm allowing this to happen. And so I project myself into the future. Let's say worst case scenario, I get contracted with coronavirus. The sequence of events that will happen is I would think to myself, okay, I got the virus, but statistically I'm not going to die. And then if I started getting really, really sick, I would still say statistically the odds of survival are better than not.
Yeah.
And that's the case for probably every single person watching this, if not the vast majority, right? And I'm going to trust just in God and his goodness and his provision for me. He doesn't promise us to not endure suffering or sickness or illness in this life.
That's true.
That's not promised to us. But what is promised is all things working together for our good. So that might look like being with the Lord early. Which is definitely for our good.
Yeah.
Which is what Paul wanted to happen. Paul was like, he had this internal battle back in, I believe it was 1 Corinthians, could be 2 Corinthians too, where he said that he wanted to depart to be with the Lord. He wanted to die. And this was like in 55 AD. This was like, 8 years or just 9 years before his last epistle. And he's saying at that point, I want to depart and be with the Lord, but it's better for you that I stay. It's better for the church that I stay. So, we die, we go stand before the throne, and we say, God, why did you allow me to get that sickness? Why did you allow me to, I was trying to take care of my family. I had 2 kids or 3 kids or whatever. Why did you allow me to suffer like that? First of all, you're going to spend the first million years, or the equivalent of a million years, just sucking carpet in heaven, weeping before the throne. And then after that, the next million years, you're going to spend rejoicing. And then if after that you still have an outstanding curiosity, you're going to ask him the question, why did you let that? And he's going to tell you the most morally and logically sufficient answer you could possibly imagine of all time. And then you'll be like, okay.
He's going to say, you forgot to wash your hands.
Right.
It brings up a good point, though. I do want to ask you. We'll probably have to do this in the members only section, but I do want to ask how do we look at things like that? Because a lot of people have that question about God. If God is in control of everything, he's sovereign, he's all powerful. That means that any evil must pass through like his permission. Like he must give permission in some sense for that.
That doesn't necessarily mean he's actively bringing it to pass.
Right.
He's just permitting it. Other factors are the effectual causes.
Yeah.
But he's just the one overseeing it all and allowing what does or doesn't come.
Yeah, and I want to get into that, and then also in the members only section, I want to ask you about like things like this virus, because there's this meme going around, which on the surface is kind of funny, but then when you think about it for more than half a second, it's kind of dumb. But, it says like basically to the effect, something to the effect of. All these Christians that believe in, the gift of healing, why aren't any of them going out and healing coronavirus? And they think that this is some profound thought. So I wanted to get because you and I both believe in the gift of healing, but neither of us are going out there and healing coronavirus. So I want to talk about that too, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what the gift of healing is, what it's used for, and when it's appropriate. But we are going to do that in the members only section. So everybody viewing for free, if you haven't had a chance to do so, make sure you go to dailyrenegade.com, get a membership today. It is only $10 a month or $100 a year. I cannot promise it's going to stay that price, because since we've been banned from YouTube, we've lost a lot of viewership. That was our main source of viewership, but we've lost that now, and I'm going to stave it off as much as possible. But there might come a time where new memberships, the price will have to go up. It won't be for existing members, so get it now while it's still cheap, and your price won't go up. $10 a month or $100 a year. I suggest getting the $100 $5 a year. It's you get 2 months for free. You only got to pay for it once, and you don't have to think about it for another year. So it's a good deal. And also, while you're there at the website, check the top toolbar or the top of the website. You can see you'll see ads for really good kratom CBD stuff that we vetted and made sure is actually legit and good. And also another product that you will go to and you will laugh when you see what it is and why, and that we're not allowed to actually talk about it on at least not on the free versions of Peck Report anymore, because some of these still go out to social media. We can say whatever we want in the members only section, but you'll laugh when you see it because it's like such a harmless thing. Why would anybody care to shut down 30 Daily Renegade videos just because they mentioned this one product? But you can get all that there at dailyrenegade.com. I suggest stocking up now because who knows how much longer this stuff is even going to be available. A lot of people are buying it up fast, so go do that now. And we will call it good there. Real quick for people viewing, where can they find you online, and where's your YouTube channel that you still have and not have been banned from yet?
I know, because I avoid topics like this. I leave it to other people.
Yeah, to get banned.
Yeah. YouTube.com/Stephen Bancars is my YouTube channel. And reasonsforjesus.com is my Christian apologetics website.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we will continue this. We will continue this conversation in the members only section. So members, stay on the line, and everybody else, thank you for joining. Until next time, take care and God bless.